The massive Imperial vessel loomed in the darkness of space, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly metallic sheen that made Admiral Park Ta-Sung's skin crawl. Standing on the bridge of the EDS Defiant, he watched the alien ship through the viewport, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The vessel was easily 5 times the size of his own ship, yet Park felt no fear, only a grim determination. The diplomatic meeting had concluded exactly as Earth's intelligence agencies had predicted. The Empire's representatives, with their towering height and silvery skin that seemed to ripple in the light, had shown nothing but contempt for humanity. Their translator devices had conveyed their message with crystal clarity: submit or die. Park remembered how the Imperial ambassador had looked down at the human delegation, its multifaceted eyes glinting with disdain. "Your species has potential," the creature had said, its words processed through the translator with an artificial smoothness. "Under our guidance, you could become something greater. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of defiance." The Admiral's jaw tightened as he recalled his response. "We appreciate your offer, Ambassador, but humanity charts its own course." The words had been diplomatic, but the steel in his voice had been unmistakable. Li Jinna, the Defiance communications officer, sat at her station, her fingers hovering over the controls. She was young for her position, but Park had personally selected her for her exceptional skills and unshakable composure. "Admiral," she called out, her voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. "The Imperial vessel is transmitting again." "Ignore it," Park commanded. "Send the message to Earth Command. Code Alpha 7. He paused, then added, "The Empire has shown their true colors." As Jinnah's fingers danced across her console, Park walked to the tactical station where Lieutenant Kim was monitoring the Imperial ship's every movement. The massive vessel hadn't moved, but Park knew better than to assume they were safe. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, gathering intelligence through various means, including recovered alien technology from crash sites and intercepted communications. The Empire had no idea that humans had already reversed engineered several of their basic technologies. They didn't know about the quantum shield generators hidden within the seemingly primitive hull of the Defiant, or the advanced AI systems that could predict and counter Imperial targeting algorithms. "Sir," Kim reported, "I'm detecting power fluctuations in their weapon systems. They're charging something big." Park nodded, unsurprised. "Let them think we're helpless. That's our advantage." He turned to address the bridge crew, his voice carrying to every corner. "Remember your training. Remember everything we've prepared for. The Empire thinks they're dealing with simple primitives who will bow at the first sign of superior technology." The bridge crew's response was a series of confident nods. They had all been chosen for this mission, knowing it might be the first contact with a hostile alien civilization. Each of them had trained for years, running countless simulations based on the intelligence gathered about Imperial tactics and technology. Through the viewport, the Imperial ship's surface began to shimmer with energy. Park watched calmly as patches of its hull started to glow with an ominous purple light. The Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about humanity. "Message sent, sir," Jinnah reported. "Earth Command acknowledges. All defense networks are going to full alert status." Park allowed himself a small smile. Across the solar system, hidden shipyards were activating. Defensive installations that had been disguised as mining operations were powering up. The trap was set. "Sir," Kim's voice was urgent now. "They're launching fighters." The space around the Imperial vessel came alive with smaller craft, their designs as alien as their mothership. They moved with incredible speed, their formation perfect and threatening. "Hold position," Park ordered. "Let them make the first move." He knew his crew was itching to respond, to show the Empire what humanity was truly capable of, but timing was everything. The Imperial fighters drew closer, their intent clear. They meant to surround the Defiant, to demonstrate their overwhelming superiority. They had no way of knowing that every movement, Every tactical decision they made was being recorded and analyzed by Earth's most advanced AI systems. "Sir," Jinnah called out, "incoming transmission from the Imperial vessel." Park nodded. "Put it through." The translator rendered the Imperial commander's words with the same artificial smoothness as before. "This is your final warning. Submit to Imperial authority or be destroyed. You have one standard time unit to comply." Park stepped forward, his reflection in the viewport overlaying the distant Imperial ship. 20 years in Earth's Space Force had prepared him for this moment. Behind him, his crew waited in perfect discipline, ready to show the Empire why humanity had survived every challenge it had ever faced. "Send no response," he ordered. "Prepare for combat operations." He turned to face his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his heart. The Empire thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Outside, the Imperial fighters continued their approach, their pilots probably laughing at what they perceived as primitive human technology. Soon, very soon, those laughs would turn to screams of surprise. Humanity had been preparing for this confrontation for decades, and now, finally, it was time to show the galaxy why you should never underestimate the human spirit. Defense Minister Kim Do-han stood before the United Earth Council, his presence commanding attention in the vast chamber. The emergency meeting had been called within hours of Admiral Park's transmission, and now 500 representatives from Earth's nations sat in tense silence, waiting for answers about humanity's response to the Imperial threat. "For 30 years, Kim began, his voice steady and strong. "We have been developing technologies in secret. Project Phoenix is ready." He paused, letting the words sink in. The chamber remained silent, but he could see the mix of hope and skepticism on the faces before him. Behind him, the massive display screen came to life, showing real-time feeds from across the solar system. What appeared to be ordinary civilian ships and mining stations began to change. Panels shifted, hidden weapons emerged, and sophisticated sensor arrays activated. The transformation was like watching flowers bloom in fast motion. "What you're seeing," Kim continued, "is the fruit of 3 decades of preparation. Every nation represented in this chamber has contributed to this project. While the Empire watched us through their long-range sensors, believing they saw a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary travel, we were building our defense fleet in plain sight." In high orbit above Mars, Captain Song Mayray sat in the command chair of what had, until moments ago, appeared to be a simple cargo hauler. The EDS Thunderbolt's true nature was now revealing itself as layers of camouflage, retracted to expose its advanced weapon systems. The quantum shields, humanity's greatest technological achievement, hummed to life for the first time in public view. "Engineering reports all systems nominal," her first officer reported. "Quantum shields at full power. Weapon systems online." Mayray watched her crew work with practiced efficiency. They had trained for years in secret, preparing for this moment. Around her ship, dozens of other vessels were undergoing similar transformations. What the Empire had dismissed as a scattered collection of primitive spacecraft was becoming a coordinated battle fleet. "Status report from all vessels," she ordered, her voice calm despite the historic nature of the moment. The responses came in quickly. The Thunderbolt was part of the Mars Defense Fleet, one of several such groups strategically positioned throughout the solar system. Each ship had been specially designed to counter Imperial technology, incorporating everything humanity had learned from decades of covered observation and recovered alien tech. Back in the council chamber, Kim Do-han activated another display. "Our ships carry weapons the Empire has never encountered. While they relied on brute force and overwhelming power, we focused on innovation. Our quantum shields can absorb and redirect their energy weapons. Our AI systems can predict and counter their battle strategies faster than their commanders can issue orders." The representatives watched in amazement as simulation data showed human vessels, significantly smaller than their Imperial counterparts, executing complex maneuvers that would be impossible for the Empire's rigid battle formations. "We studied their tactical doctrine," Kim explained. The Empire fights like an empire, with overwhelming force and inflexible strategies. They expect their technological superiority to guarantee victory. They've never faced an enemy that thinks like us, that adapts like us. In space, Captain Myray received the activation codes from Earth Command. The Thunderbolt systems came fully online, revealing capabilities that would have seemed impossible just hours ago. The ship's AI interface projected combat scenarios and tactical options, processing information at speeds that made Imperial computers look primitive by comparison. All ships, battle formation Delta, she ordered. The fleet moved with precision, taking up positions that looked chaotic to untrained eyes, but followed a carefully planned strategy. Each vessel was positioned to support the others, creating overlapping fields of fire and defensive coverage. Minister Kim's voice continued to echo through the council chamber. The Empire believes they're dealing with a primitive species that will bow before their superior technology. They don't understand that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to innovate, to find solutions where others see only obstacles. The display showed more feeds from across the solar system. Hidden bases on Mars, Venus, and various moons were activating. Defensive platforms that had masqueraded as communication satellites revealed their true purpose. A comprehensive defense network, 3 decades in the making, was coming online. We are not alone in resisting the Empire, Kim revealed. For years, we've been in secret contact with other species who chafe under Imperial rule. They've shared technology, intelligence, and resources. They're watching now, waiting to see if humanity can do what no other species has managed, stand up to the Empire and win. Captain Myray received new tactical data from Earth Command. The Imperial ship that had threatened Admiral Park's vessel was just the beginning. Long-range sensors detected more Imperial ships entering the solar system. The Empire was mounting a show of force, expecting to find a primitive civilization cowering before their might. Instead, they would find humanity waiting, prepared, and ready to fight. The quantum shields of the Thunderbolt pulsed with power, its weapons primed. Around it, dozens of other ships formed up, each crewed by men and women who had trained their entire careers for this moment. The Empire was about to learn that threatening humanity was a serious mistake. They were about to discover that behind humanity's seemingly primitive exterior lay a force they never expected to encounter. A species that had spent 30 years preparing for this very day. Project Phoenix was more than ready. It was time for humanity to rise from the ashes of Imperial expectations and show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. The red planet Mars hung silently against the backdrop of stars as Commander Yoon Ha-won watched the Imperial dreadnoughts approach. From the bridge of the EDS Swift, she could see 5 massive enemy vessels, each one dwarfing her entire fleet of human ships. Their hulls gleamed with that distinctive Imperial silver, weapons ports glowing with barely contained energy. All ships maintain formation, Ha-won ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. Remember your training. They're bigger, but we're smarter. Her fleet of 30 vessels, each no larger than an old Earth destroyer, held their positions in a seemingly scattered pattern that was anything but random. The Imperial ships moved exactly as predicted, their formation rigid and unchanging. Their commanders had probably fought 100 battles this way, overwhelming their opponents with sheer firepower, but they had never faced humans before. Enemy vessels launching fighter screens, reported Lieutenant Park from Tactical. Standard Imperial attack pattern. Ha-won allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. All ships. Execute pattern Delta 3. Target their propulsion systems. Her fleet burst into action. The seemingly random formation suddenly made sense as human vessels paired off and accelerated in multiple directions. The Imperial fighters, expecting their targets to either flee or charge straight in, found themselves shooting at empty space. First blood is ours, announced Park, as the EDS Hawk and EDS Falcon executed a perfect pincer movement, their quantum-enhanced weapons slicing through an Imperial dreadnought's engine housing. The massive ship's propulsion flickered and died. The Imperial response was predictable. They began launching more fighters and charging their main weapons. Their massive ships turned ponderously, trying to bring their primary weapons to bear on the nimble human vessels. They're following the standard Imperial combat doctrine, had one observed. Phase 2. Commence. Human ships darted between the Imperial vessels, using their own massive bulk as shields against each other's weapons. The Empire's fighters could barely track the smaller ships, let alone hit them. Each human vessel moved independently, but in perfect coordination with the others, creating chaos in the Imperial formation. Multiple hits confirmed, Park reported. Enemy shields are adapting, but slower than simulations predicted. The space around Mars lit up with weapon fire. Imperial energy beams lashed out, powerful enough to vaporize any ship they hit, but they couldn't hit what they couldn't target. Human vessels danced through the barrage, their quantum shields deflecting glancing blows while their AI systems predicted and avoided direct hits. "Sir," Park's voice carried a note of excitement. "The third Dreadnought's shield matrix is destabilizing. They've never seen our phase shift torpedoes before." Had one nodded. "All ships, focus fire. Show them why you don't corner a human." The EDS Swift led the charge, its weapons finding gaps in the Imperial defenses that their engineers had probably deemed impossible to exploit. Around her ship, the rest of the fleet executed complex maneuvers that looked like chaos, but followed a carefully planned strategy. An Imperial dreadnought exploded, its reactor containment finally failing after sustained attacks on precisely calculated weak points. The explosion temporarily blinded sensors, but when the light faded, 2 more Imperial ships were heavily damaged. "They're trying to regroup," Park announced. "Standard Imperial response to losses. They're falling back to reinforce their formation." "Not this time," Hawan said firmly. "All ships, execute Maneuver Omega. Don't let them recover." Human vessels darted forward, pressing their advantage. The remaining Imperial ships found themselves surrounded, their traditional tactics useless against an enemy that refused to fight by their rules. The battle that had started as a show of force by the Empire had turned into a demonstration of human ingenuity. Imperial fighters scattered, their formations broken. The mighty dreadnoughts, designed to instill fear across the galaxy, found themselves unable to effectively fight enemies they couldn't predict. "Enemy flagship is signaling retreat," Park reported, disbelief evident in his voice. "They're actually running." The remaining Imperial vessels began to pull back, their retreat covered by what remained of their fighter screen. They left behind 2 destroyed dreadnoughts and 3 heavily damaged ones, losses that the Empire hadn't suffered in centuries of conquest. Hai-Wan stood from her command chair, watching the Imperial ships flee. "Send word to Earth Command. The first battle goes to humanity. Let them know that the Empire's ships fight exactly as our intelligence suggested. They're powerful but predictable." As her fleet regrouped, conducting damage assessments and preparing for the Empire's inevitable counterattack, Hawan knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would return with more ships, but they would find humanity ready. Today's battle would become legendary not just for its outcome, but for what it represented. The first time in known history that an Imperial battle fleet had been defeated by a supposedly inferior force. The stars seemed to shine brighter over Mars as human ships moved to defensive positions, their crews tired but proud. They had proven that humanity's preparation, innovation, and adaptability could overcome even the most powerful enemy. The Empire had started this war expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had found an opponent unlike any they had faced before. The EDS Ghost drifted silently through the void, its advanced stealth systems making it virtually non-existent to Imperial sensors. Captain Choi Soo-young stood at her command station, watching the holographic display as an Imperial supply convoy approached their position. 5 massive cargo vessels, escorted by 3 warships, moved through space with the arrogant confidence that had become the Empire's trademark. All stations maintained silent running. Soo-young whispered, though the stealth systems would have contained even a shout. Let them come to us. Her crew worked in near-total darkness, their stations illuminated only by the dim glow of essential displays. The Ghost's revolutionary stealth technology didn't just hide them from sensors. It absorbed energy emissions, heat signatures, and even light itself. To the Empire's advanced detection systems, they were nothing more than another piece of space debris. Target convoy is maintaining course, reported Lieutenant Kang from Tactical, his voice barely above a whisper. Their escorts are running standard patrol patterns. Su Yung smiled in the darkness. The Empire's predictability was their greatest weakness. Signal the others. Execute on my mark. 4 other stealth ships lay waiting in perfect ambush positions. The EDS Phantom, Shadow, Wraith, and Spectre were all part of humanity's Ghost Fleet, vessels specially designed for this kind of asymmetric warfare. The Imperial convoy drew closer, their massive engines pushing them through space with impressive speed. They carried supplies vital to the Empire's war effort: fuel, ammunition, and replacement parts for their massive battle fleets. They expect us to fight like their other conquests, Su Yung told her crew, her voice carrying quiet confidence. Their arrogance will be their downfall. Ready weapons. The Ghost's weapon systems powered up, but remained contained within its stealth field. Years of research and development had gone into creating weapons that could fire without compromising their invisibility. Mark. 5 human ships materialized from nowhere, their weapons already firing. The Imperial escort vessels barely had time to register the attack before precision strikes disabled their primary systems. The cargo ships, vast and vulnerable, tried to scatter, but it was too late. Target their engines, Su Yung ordered. Clean strikes only. We want these ships intact. The Ghost's weapons found their marks with surgical precision. One by one, the Imperial vessels lost power, their engines disabled by carefully placed shots that caused minimal structural damage. Boarding teams, move in, Su Yung commanded. Standard capture protocols. Small craft launched from the human vessels, carrying teams trained specifically for capturing Imperial ships. They had practiced these maneuvers countless times, perfecting the art of taking enemy vessels with minimal damage to cargo or crew. Imperial distress calls detected, reported communications. Their encryption is standard. Su Yung nodded. Let them call. By the time help arrives, we'll be gone. She watched as her boarding teams breached the Imperial ships with practiced efficiency. Begin cargo transfer operations. The next hour was a carefully choreographed dance of efficiency. Essential supplies were transferred to waiting human ships while Imperial crews were secured in their own cargo holds. Any technology that could be quickly salvaged was taken. Imperial response fleet detected, Tactical announced. 3 combat groups approaching at maximum speed. Right on schedule, Su Yung said calmly. Complete final transfers. Prepare to disappear. The human ships worked quickly, their crews moving with the precision that came from endless drills. As the Imperial response fleet approached, the Ghost ships began to vanish one by one, their stealth systems re-engaging. Leave them something to think about, Su Yung ordered. Small devices attached to the disabled Imperial ships began broadcasting a message on all frequencies. The shadows are watching. Your supply lines are now our supply lines. The Ghost was the last to vanish, slipping away just as the Imperial reinforcements arrived. Su Yung watched through their passive sensors as the Empire's mighty warships found only their own vessels, disabled and stripped of vital cargo. Set course for Rendezvous Point Delta, she ordered. Begin analysis of captured data cores. As her ship moved silently through space, Su Yung reflected on how the Empire's fundamental understanding of warfare was working against them. They expected grand battles, fleet engagements, and shows of force. Instead, they were facing an enemy that struck from darkness, disappeared without a trace, and slowly bled their war machine dry. Send word to command, she told her communications officer. Operation Shadow Dance successful. 8,000 tons of military supplies captured. No casualties on either side. The Ghost slipped through the void, already preparing for its next strike. Somewhere in Imperial space, another convoy was moving, believing itself safe. But the shadows were waiting, and humanity's Ghost fleet would strike again, proving that sometimes the most effective weapon wasn't the biggest ship or the strongest weapon. It was simply not being there at all. The Empire's frustration would continue to grow as their mighty ships were repeatedly ambushed by enemies they couldn't detect, their supply lines systematically dismantled by adversaries who refused to fight by their rules. In their arrogance, they had never considered that their technology could be not just matched, but surpassed in such a way. Imperial High Commander Rethin's silvery skin rippled with barely contained rage as he faced the Council of Worlds. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and floating holographic displays, had once filled him with pride. Now it felt like a cage where he had to explain yet another devastating defeat. "Another shipyard lost," growled Council Elder Vex, his compound eyes flashing with anger. "The third this cycle. These humans are making us look like untrained younglings." The holographic displays showed the wreckage of what had been one of the Empire's most productive military shipyards. Admiral Park's forces had struck with devastating precision, somehow slipping past defenses that had been considered impenetrable for centuries. "The humans fight like no species we have encountered," Rethin admitted, his translator struggling to convey the frustration in his voice. "They refuse to engage in proper combat. They strike from shadows, using ships we cannot detect, with weapons that bypass our strongest shields." The council chamber erupted in angry voices, each member demanding explanations, solutions, or Rethin's immediate removal from command. The Empire had not faced such humiliation in 10,000 years of existence. "And what of these guerrilla attacks?" demanded another council member. "This Captain Choi and her ghost ships. Our supply lines are in chaos. 3 more convoys disappeared just yesterday." Rethin's secondary hearts clenched at the mention of the ghost ships. His best tacticians still couldn't explain how human vessels could become completely invisible to Imperial sensors. It defied everything they knew about physics. Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, in a facility buried deep beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Han Jithai stood before a captured Imperial shield generator. The device had been salvaged from one of the destroyed shipyards, and it held secrets she had spent months unraveling. "The Empire's technology isn't as advanced as they want us to believe," she explained to the gathered military officers. "They've been relying on the same basic principles for centuries. They stopped innovating because they never needed to." She activated a holographic display showing the internal workings of the Imperial device. Their shield technology, for example. It's incredibly powerful, but it's also rigid. It can't adapt to new types of attacks because they never expected to face any. In the Imperial Council chamber, Rethin faced more accusations. "Our intelligence indicated they were primitives," shouted a council member. "How did we miss their true capabilities?" "Because they wanted us to miss them," Rethin replied, finally understanding. "Everything they showed us was carefully crafted deception. While we watched their primitive-seeming ships, they were building an entire hidden fleet." Back in the lunar facility, Jihai activated her latest prototype. A miniaturized version of the Imperial shield generator hummed to life, but with significant modifications. "We've improved their design," she said, pride evident in her voice. "Our version uses 30% less energy and can adapt to new threats in real time." She turned to the military observers. "Their advantage isn't just disappearing, it's already gone. We can match their technology now, and in many cases, surpass it." The demonstration continued as Jihai showed how her team had not just copied Imperial technology, but improved upon it. Each breakthrough represented another crack in the Empire's supposed technological superiority. In Imperial space, another convoy disappeared, taken by ghost ships that appeared and vanished like cosmic phantoms. Rethin received the report during his council hearing, adding to his humiliation. The humans learn and adapt with frightening speed, he told the council. Every tactic we use, they counter. Every technology we deploy, they somehow improve upon. They're not just fighting us. They're evolving faster than we can respond. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For millennia, the Empire had relied on technological superiority to maintain its dominance. Now, for the first time, they faced an enemy that could not only match their technology, but improve upon it. In the lunar facility, HFY's team made another breakthrough. We've cracked their quantum communication protocols, she reported to Earth Command. Their entire command and control network is vulnerable. The news spread quickly through human forces. Captain Choi's Ghost Fleet would now be able to predict Imperial movements with perfect accuracy. Admiral Park's forces could coordinate attacks with unprecedented precision. Rothan felt the Empire's grip on power weakening. Each report brought news of another defeat, another technological secret lost, another supply line severed. The mighty Imperial war machine, unchanged for centuries, was being dismantled by an enemy that refused to fight according to their rules. We must adapt, he told the council, knowing his words bordered on heresy. The humans have shown us that our greatest weakness is our own inflexibility. But the Empire had forgotten how to adapt. Centuries of unchallenged dominance had left them rigid, predictable, and vulnerable to an enemy that embraced change and innovation. As HFY's breakthroughs continued to level the technological playing field, humanity's confidence grew. The Empire's advantage was disappearing, and with it, their aura of invincibility. They thought technology alone made them superior, HFY told her team as they prepared to unveil their latest innovations. They forgot that true strength lies not in having the best weapons, but in having the wisdom and creativity to use them in ways your enemy never imagined. The Empire was stumbling, its once mighty stride broken by an enemy they had gravely underestimated, and humanity was just getting started. Fleet Admiral Kang Da-hyun stood before the massive tactical display aboard the EDS Sovereign, watching as thousands of green dots representing human ships moved into their final positions. Years of planning, countless sacrifices, and months of careful preparation had led to this moment. Every raid, every battle, every apparent retreat had been building to this single coordinated strike. All fleet commanders report ready, sir, announced his tactical officer. Ghost fleets are in position. Strike groups confirm targeting data. Infiltration teams signal green. Da-hyun nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the 12 red points marking Imperial command nodes. These fortified stations formed the backbone of the Empire's military communication network. Each was considered impregnable, protected by layers of defenses that had never been breached in the Empire's long history. Send the final authorization code, he ordered. Operation Checkmate begins in 5 minutes. Throughout human space, ships of every size moved with precise coordination. Admiral Park's battle fleets, Captain Choi's ghost ships, and dozens of other commands prepared to strike. The Empire's arrogance had led them to believe their command nodes were safe deep within their territory. They never imagined an enemy could reach them all simultaneously. Imperial patrols maintaining standard patterns, reported sensors. No indication they've detected our approach. Da-hyun allowed himself a small smile. For months, human ships had been infiltrating Imperial space, using the stealth technology that had proven so effective in Captain Choi's raids. Now those ships lay waiting, hidden in the shadows of moons, asteroids, and debris fields near every command node. 3 minutes to synchronization, announced the tactical officer. All ships signaling ready. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Strike all 12 nodes simultaneously, overwhelming their defenses before they could call for help. Dr. Han's breakthroughs in Imperial technology had given them the tools they needed. The virus that would disable the Imperial defense grid was already in place, planted during months of careful cyber warfare. 2 minutes. Ghost fleets moving into attack positions. Da-hyun thought of every human soldier, sailor, and pilot waiting for his command. They had trained for this moment, knowing that success meant freedom from Imperial dominion, while failure meant certain subjugation. 1 minute. Strike groups confirm final targeting solutions. The tactical display updated, showing Imperial ships continuing their regular patrols, oblivious to the trap about to be sprung. The Empire's rigid adherence to protocol had made them predictable. Every patrol route, every response pattern, had been studied and accounted for. 30 seconds. Infiltration teams in position at all nodes. Inside each command node, hidden teams of human operatives waited near critical systems. They had spent months infiltrating these stations, passing as maintenance workers from subjugated species, patiently waiting for this moment. 10 seconds. All ships' weapons hot. Defense grid virus primed. Dahyun took a deep breath. All ships, execute Operation Checkmate. The virus struck first, spreading through the Imperial network at light speed. Defense systems began shutting down, communication arrays went dark, and sensor networks failed. In the crucial first seconds, the Empire's mighty defensive grid simply ceased to exist. Ghost fleets engaging, tactical reported as hundreds of stealth ships, materialized around the command nodes. Their first strikes targeted communication arrays and weapon emplacements with surgical precision. The Imperial response was chaos. Without their central network, each station had to fight alone. Patrol ships rushed to defend the nodes, but found themselves caught in carefully planned crossfires. Strike groups moving in, announced tactical. All nodes under simultaneous attack. Daehyun watched as thousands of human ships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons already firing. The Empire's defenders fought back with their characteristic power, but lacked the coordination that had made them invincible for so long. Infiltration teams executing internal strikes. Communications reported. Critical systems failing at all nodes. Inside each station, the hidden human operators struck at vital systems, disabling backup generators and sabotaging emergency protocols. The Empire's own security measures, designed to compartmentalize their stations, now prevented them from supporting each other. First node confirmed disabled, tactical announced. Second and third reporting critical damage. The battle unfolded with mechanical precision. Every Imperial counterattack had been anticipated, every response planned for. The Empire's mighty warships found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. 7 nodes confirmed disabled. 8 and 9 reporting massive system failures. Daehyun watched as the Empire's command and control network crumbled. Without these nodes, their vast military machine would be reduced to individual ships and stations, unable to coordinate their actions across their vast territory. All nodes confirmed disabled or destroyed. Tactical finally reported. Operation Checkmate successful. The Admiral allowed himself to relax slightly. Signal all ships. Begin Phase 2. Secure these positions. The Empire is about to discover just how vulnerable they've become. Across Imperial space, the mighty Empire found itself blind and deaf, its ships unable to communicate across the vast distances of space. The carefully coordinated human fleets, however, could still communicate using their own advanced networks. Send word to all commands, Daehyun ordered. The Empire's advantage is broken. Now we show them why humanity never surrenders. The tactical display showed the aftermath of their strike. 12 critical command nodes, the heart of Imperial military power, now under human control, were destroyed. The Empire's response would be fierce, but without their command network, they would be fighting blind. Humanity's gambit had paid off. The carefully planned strategy, months of preparation, and years of technological development had culminated in this decisive moment. The Empire was about to learn that sometimes the greatest victory comes not from overwhelming force, but from careful planning and the courage to strike at the perfect moment. The space station orbiting Alpha Centauri gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of dual suns. Inside its grand diplomatic chamber, President Lee Mina stood tall as she waited for the arrival of the Imperial Sovereign. The room, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of species, now held the fate of the galaxy in its pristine halls. Human ships and Imperial vessels maintained their positions outside, their weapons powered down but ready. The EDS Defiant, Admiral Park's flagship, held position alongside the massive Imperial flagship, a symbol of the new balance of power that had emerged. When the Imperial Sovereign entered, the chamber fell silent. The being's silvery skin rippled with iridescent patterns, a sign of emotional turmoil that their species couldn't hide. Behind the Sovereign, Imperial advisors watched with a mixture of resignation and barely concealed anger. "Welcome to neutral space," Minna said, her voice carrying easily through the chamber. Her translator rendered her words in the Imperial language perfectly. "Thanks to Dr. Han's breakthroughs, today we meet as equals." The Sovereign's response came slowly, carefully measured. "Never in 10,000 years has the Empire been forced to negotiate as equals. Your species has achieved what many thought impossible." Minna smiled diplomatically. "The galaxy is changing," she stated firmly. "The age of empire is over. We offer partnership, not submission. The choice before you is simple: adapt or become obsolete." Around them, representatives from other species watched intently. Many were former Imperial subjects who had risen up during the chaos following Operation Checkmate. They had discovered that the Empire's grip wasn't as unbreakable as they had believed. "You speak of partnership," the Sovereign said, "yet your ships destroyed our command nodes. Your ghost fleets terrorize our supply lines. Your technology now matches or exceeds our own. We did what was necessary to show that no species has the right to dominate others," Minna responded. "But notice, we didn't press our advantage. We didn't seek to conquer. We only wanted to be free, and to offer that same freedom to others." The chamber's artificial lighting caught the subtle shifts in the Sovereign's skin tone, signs that human xenobiologists had learned to read as deep contemplation. The Empire was facing a choice it had never encountered before: evolve or fade into history. "What guarantees do we have that this partnership you speak of will be genuine?" the Sovereign asked. Minna gestured to the window, where human and Imperial ships floated side by side. "Look outside. We could have destroyed your ships. Instead, we learned to match them. We could have bombarded your worlds. Instead, we disabled your ability to oppress. Every step of our campaign was designed to prove that cooperation is better than domination." The Sovereign moved closer to the window, watching the ships outside. For the first time in recorded history, the being's posture showed something new: respect. "Perhaps," the Sovereign said slowly, "there is wisdom in your words. The Empire has grown rigid, set in its ways. Your species has shown us that this is a weakness we can no longer afford." What happened next would be recorded in 1,000 histories across the galaxy. The Imperial Sovereign, supreme ruler of 1,000 worlds, bowed to a human. The gesture sent shockwaves through the chamber. Imperial advisors gasped. Representatives of former subject species murmured in astonishment. "We accept your offer of partnership," the Sovereign declared. "The Empire will change. We will learn to coexist rather than dominate." Minna bowed in return, matching the gesture perfectly. "Then let today mark the beginning of a new era. One where all species work together, where innovation and cooperation replace stagnation and oppression." The formal treaty that followed would reshape the galaxy. The Empire would transform into a commonwealth of equal members. Human innovation would spread through former Imperial space, while Imperial experience would help guide expansion into unknown regions. In the years that followed, the story of humanity's defiance became legend. It was told in schools on 1,000 worlds, recounted in space stations and colonies across the galaxy. It served as a reminder that technological superiority means little when faced with human ingenuity, determination, and the unshakable will to remain free. Admiral Park would later write in his memoirs, "We never sought to destroy the Empire. We sought to transform it, to show that cooperation and innovation are stronger than domination and stagnation." Captain Choi's Ghost Fleet became a symbol of human ingenuity, their tactics studied in military academies throughout known space. Dr. Hand's breakthroughs led to a new age of technological cooperation between species, and President Lee Minna, the human who made an empire bow, would be remembered as the one who proved that the greatest power isn't the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when to offer peace instead. The human ships that had brought such change to the galaxy remained on guard, not as weapons of war, but as reminders that freedom, once gained, must be forever protected. They stood as symbols of a truth that the Empire had learned at great cost, that in the vast expanse of space, the strongest force isn't the biggest ship or the most powerful weapon, but the indomitable spirit of those who refuse to kneel. Asterisk, the end asterisk.